and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. I found a very lovely spot today. I actually took a ferry walk in the forest, and you know, sometimes you're surprised. You think you know the neighborhood and then something new comes up, and it's a beautiful spot. So I hope I won't be disturbed because they have some wood here, and so find a nice little shelter to record in today. So I wanted to talk about something really important, which actually came through the most recent session I had with a companion. And I always tell people that, you know, we are each our own Akashic library. So when you meet a new aspect of creation, another being, another animal, another facet of life, whatever it is, because life is so full, life is full of information, life is in itself informing itself. So as we're living our life, simply living our life, we're being informed. We're being informed through love when we allow it. And what came through was, you know, this exchange of information. And always with each session I receive something new. So like each person I have a session with, not just that I'm acting as a guide, as a midwife for the process they're going through and the messages they're to receive at that time through spirit and their soul. It's also they're bringing something to me because they unlock a new potential, a new doorway, because it's like a trigger for me so that something new can come up. So with each session I'm deepening myself. I'm also deepening the awareness I have, especially about volunteer souls, because these particular beings who are coming to work with me are usually now very young beings, very young generation. I call them the new kids, the new kids on the block, although they're not really kids in that sense, okay? So you probably know what I mean by that. And with each such person, my awareness of volunteer souls expands, because I'm always kind of, you know, sessions are very different in according to what kind of type of soul consciousness I'm working with, or what's standing right or sitting right in front of me. But with these recent little young ones, it's like the information coming through is all about why we're here. A lot of it is about this. So how can we implant this in our lives and just live our lives simply with this consciousness of knowing what we are? So when I started this journey and sharing about volunteer souls, ever since, my concept of volunteer souls has expanded greatly, and it still continues to expand. All that we are, all the what our projects we're here to do, what is, you know, the bigger purpose, and how now these links that we're connecting through, you know, our conscious connections are opening up new doorways for us to understand. So in this recent session, it was a lot about life, okay, living life, and life being so fully alive. So the first thing I want to share is because the person actually said they participated in this experience of, I don't know the name of the type of meditation. There was a type of a retreat, a meditation retreat or something. And the other story, because I simply, you know, asked them to share something they were experiencing when they felt a jolt of new energy, when they released something of the old, or when they followed their intuition to be where they needed to be in that moment, okay? Something calling them out. And these new kids are amazing because they're always saying, well, this place calls me out, so I just go there. This calls me out and I do that. Like little traveling gypsies. It's amazing. I love that. I love this new consciousness and the way it's simply expressing itself. So they shared with me these two experiences, and I could see the connecting link, okay? Hello, wasp. You're in our space somehow. Lots of fruit on the floor, so yeah, no wonder why. So what came through was, you know, she shared with me how it felt during that meditation, right? So a part of it was like, okay, we're dissolving the ego constructs. And another part that came through was like, it just didn't feel comfortable. It felt too rigid and structured. So the other experience they had was being in a rainforest, right? They traveled to South America and they had this experience and with a waterfall and feeling fully alive and vibrant. So I kind of, you know, spirit connected these two experiences, and especially in the activation we did later, which was really feeling alive. So I want to now explain, the first thing I want to explain is the way it was explained through the session, okay? So the reason for volunteer souls being that new type of consciousness. So imagine being like an ocean, right? In that ocean, you are a self-obvious consciousness that already knows a full expression of compassion, unconditional love, unconditional understanding. It's self-obvious. They didn't have to work to get there. Okay, so this means that volunteer souls specifically are beings who did not have to work through specific lifetimes here on earth to get to that point of awareness. That point of awareness is simply held at that level. So a volunteer soul is an expression of that consciousness which sends as a divine intervention, as an intermediary act of love, that type of consciousness into a specific type of creation that's unfolding, and it's coming also into, you know, it wants to meet that aspect of itself, like our planetary consciousness we know as Gaia does at this time, and a lot of humans who are completing their karmic cycles. So a volunteer soul type, as it was explained through this session, is it's like, imagine that one little grain of that crystal, one little crystal, right? A crystalline grain of that ocean, of that self-obvious consciousness, which already holds this in itself. It is itself an expression. So that little seed, right, goes and it travels into this foreign land, right? It's like a new landscape. So in the video I talked about the Venus. It's like, imagine you're an alien coming into new territory, and although you fully know yourself, even if you're self-realized, because even self-realization is a consciously expanding, ever-expanding process. It's not like you get self-realized, oh, now you're enlightened, over, game over, like in a video game. It's a constantly expanding notion, right? So imagine you being fully self-aware at that level. Then you come and meet the new environment. There will be an alchemical merging point of that awareness which you hold with the awareness and the environment that that place also holds. So it was shown how the information process is both ways. So even though volunteer souls at the beginning stages of their awakening might not know, you know, it's like a pre-awakening stage when we're imprinting upon this world, we're receiving information from people, how they think, where there's their limitations, their fears, you know, their deepest shadows. We're getting to know all of this through our relationships, you know, with the societal forms of living and people especially, but also the environments, okay? So everything we're exposed to, not just our families, but all the circles of life we meet aspects of the self when we're in this environment. So imagine this grain of this crystalline light coming there and realizing that they also are this, even though here in this space it was just self-obvious, pure love, pure compassion, right? Pure selfless service. Knowing that you're in service because you are full of life, you are one with all life, that life is an ever-expanding notion of spirit as it moves, and spirit is always in the movement, okay? So when you come into this new environment, you're meeting these aspects of the self also as the self, but at the same time you're also informing that process of what you require as a being who comes from this self-obvious, let's call it secret space. It's not a place, it's not a time. It's just a self-obvious state of consciousness that exists at this very refined level of knowing itself. But it's a much more group kind of level than we would know it as an individualized soul. So imagine this crystalline grain is more, it's not so much an individualized soul as it is an aspect of the group, but it still has to individualize in order to even travel, okay? So this aspect becomes, because it comes from this group type of consciousness, which is fully aware, and it exists in the self-obvious state, even though it's just, imagine it as a grain of sand coming from the entire bag of the sand, or like whatever, full beach. It has the knowledge, the memory of the whole of this, okay, this over-encompassing group consciousness. So it travels, and when it meets this new environment, imagine when we plant the seed in the soil, right? The soil also, sorry, there's a tractor coming there, can't help it, this is a kind of environment. So when the soul, if the soil wants to, support the seed also needs to inform the soil what it needs, right? So it's kind of like a dual type of information. So a volunteer soul type will get information from the current environment they're coming into to plant this new seed of the self, but at the same time, because of that, they're also informing that environment what they need to thrive, what this state, when it comes into this environment, requires for its growth. So the communication streams will be multiple. They're not just like, okay, we're getting imprints from this environment. Tractor. Little disturbance in the 3D world. Well, that's how it is, guys. So rural environment. That word was always very hard for me to pronounce. So this information stream comes in both ways, and a lot of times before the awakening, when we're having these relationships at the more unconscious level, our consciousness is already sending forth these streams. What we need, what is at this highest level, a higher level of life that can exist and can fully thrive, because life on Earth, as you know, did not thrive. It experienced a lot of polarization and duality and war and all of that. So it's a kind of both stream waves communication, okay? So what this happens is that in the same, we're bringing something to life in this way, and life brings something back to us. This is, you know, every mantra you do, we say, life supports me. People always forget to include the other part of the equation, which is life supports me, therefore I also support life, because as a consciousness of God self-realization within you, you're all. You're not just a being who's here separate from source, so therefore life has to support you because you are a vital component of life. You also support life because you in any way are not separate from life in itself, and life in its purest form is an expression in creativity that's infinite, is love. So love puts things into motion. Love will create everything, because when there's only information cycle, you know, I always say you can have all the knowledge of the world, but you can't apply it. Without love, there's nothing, there's no movement. So life in spirit and pure spirit awareness always moves. But we, you know, in this kind of limited, broad spectrum, kind of like a bandwidth that was at a certain width, right? And it wasn't yet fully expanded, had a limited capacity to how much information it can receive. So that's why these aspects that came from this self-obvious place where there's pure love, pure compassion, it's not a space from which the individualized souls come from in order to learn and experience life, to integrate within themselves this state. This is already the self-obvious state, so it feels different for these beings. And the funny thing is, I asked this person, that I always ask a question that Spirit shows me, because that question will unlock something within the session to bring about something that's necessary to come up. So the question was, when did you first remember or know you were different? I didn't say special or something, just different. And they were taken back to a moment where they were 3 years old, right? And they already had this thought, ooh, I'm entering a world of adults. So I was shown like how the higher self, because there is no time, right? Really, actually, there is no time. Oh man, this tractor is just going up and down. I can't help it. This was such a peaceful spot when I came here. And I told you, I hope I'm not going to be disturbed. This is sometimes what they do, you know, the world of duality. They're sending you these like distractions so that you would not do what you're required to do. But I really don't give up. Let just the tractor do its thing. And if it doesn't, if it comes here, I'm just going to move the location spot. It's just how it is. But I hope it's not too loud for you guys. As it is for me, though. It's not as easy to concentrate when you have like something pulling your strings. So anyway, what I was saying, the higher self operates in a way that it's timeless. So before being programmed into this life and the societal structures, we must do, like I said, this is a dual information stream. You have to get imprints from this world. Even though you come from a self-obvious place, when I say self-obvious, it means completely self-aware in itself as love. The totality, the sum of all parts in union. So this means that this stream, right, it exists beyond time, and before you go and enter into, you know, this is the age of 6 to 7 years old, you already start to receive the societal imprints and all of that. And what this means is that all of a sudden, because you're still so open up, you can get these insights, which is because there is no time. It's like you're looking into the future and remembering a time, perhaps maybe of your first awakening. So it's a future self coming in, and this is, time is so complex, very divergence, and you know, it's kind of like it's a cosmic convergence in a way. And when we get awareness about that, realize that, oh, maybe when I was 3, I had this premonition of me being now remembering to be my sovereign, and you know, opening up to that part. That's just how really life works. So that's the first part I wanted to share, is how this is. And when the awakening starts for the volunteer soul, the most important thing for them to know is to start remembering why they're different, to start building their platform of their self-awareness, to get really clear. Like, you have to create that almost like a still lake kind of clarity, that you build your own intuitive pathways. Because first and foremost, what always comes through for these people is the way they function cannot compare in any rigid way of thinking, even modality, even spiritual teachings. because they're so unique. They already have all they need, they require within. They don't need to learn this. They only need to learn how to function as this grain of crystalline you know, consciousness here, and become aware of this multiple streamlines consciousness and the both ways imprinting, which is them telling, right? It's like it's a transmission of their energy. They're telling and informing the environment around them what is required for life to thrive at the higher level, okay, when this is a self-obvious expression of love. At the same time, they're receiving imprints of what still is being held here at this time. So they're not really dissolving energy in terms of, oh, we're transmuting it, we're transmuting darkness into the light. It's not about that. This is still duality playing out. Volunteer souls are completely aware that this is how things are not done, that love informs itself simply by being brought into an aspect of creation that, let's say, has not known itself as love for a very long time, for eons of time. So this is simply why they're here, to be a complete embodiment of love, and the way they need to be loved, the way it needs to be seamless process for them is so incorporated, it's so rich, it has to be full of life. One other aspect now, the other one that wants to be shared is, I've already talked to you about people who are trying to transcend life, who are trying to escape life, who are trying to meditate their way out of life. This happens very often, even with many of the traditional or whatever kind of guru practices, meditation practices. I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. Obviously, on this planet, everything is an experience. But for volunteer souls, we're not here to do rigid routines or to get very structured, organized ways, like, okay, this is the way, focus, organized way, this kind of meditation, this kind of yoga practice. You know, even with the previous session, also with a very similar age group person, it was similar. They couldn't do a certain type of yoga because it was just too rigid for them, and they needed this raw expression because they held a lot of this life force within as well. They needed to channel that. They needed to learn how to do that. It's a process, right? We start as babies and then, you know, eventually grow as wise babies, but we're still babies. What I'm saying here is that this type of practice that promotes almost like the transcendental mode, you know, for you to get detached from life completely so that you could be this transpersonal self, because in truth there is no self. A lot of teachings do incorporate that, as you well know. The funny thing is that, you know, these beings as volunteer souls, we always know that this is absolutely not right. Something in your body will definitely tell you, and all these people I talk to, they know. You know, they already know. They always say, well, something didn't feel right. Yeah, because your body recognized this is not the ultimate truth. Okay, now love that came through and wanted to share this, and the tractor is still here. It's like a little bugger that doesn't give up. They have their chores. We have our own, right? So maybe it would help if I put the microphone on this side. Let me try it. Because the tractor is on that side. Okay, I just hope I don't ruin anything. So we quickly recognize when something is simply off, because the reason for this is volunteer souls came here to bring life into its full realization, knowing that life is eventually ultimately love, that love wants to experience itself, be brought into every aspect of creation, that every aspect will remember that maybe in which in many cases was forgotten. It wasn't lost, it was just forgotten. It had a veil through it, around it, all around it, all veiled, all covered up. So what this means is that your body will tell you, this is just not right, it doesn't feel right, it's too passive, or it's like too eliminating of the component of life. And the guidance that came through yesterday was like, you can't transcend life. And a lot of these meditation practices, they want to like move beyond this level, and they don't even know where they're going. It's like, where are you trying to go? If you don't even know what you are as the self, truly knowing yourself, the core level through love, and love is the answer. They're trying to use only this awareness, and they're working only with light. When you only work with light, it's always dangerous, because you're out of equilibrium of the universal cosmic force, which is love and light that combine and create this third energy, which is complete perfection of creation. It's divine creation at its finest. It's the immaculate design, conception. So the funny thing is, like, all these people in these practices, they're trying so hard to dissolve their ego instead of just loving, seeing the role it played for the evolution of the soul and why it was chosen. right? For the experience. So why it was developed. So when you, let's say you're a more evolved being, I'm not saying higher, just more evolved in terms of the way you see and understand creation principles and the design of life and through love, the more you will know that there's just something very off when there's duality playing out, okay? And you will see everything as an experience, as an experiment, but you won't necessarily need to participate with that, because your state of evolution does not necessarily need that experience, because you've already, you know, you've upgraded yourself to being that self-obvious state, that state of love, which is simply the narration of the design of creation. So love ultimately wants to be brought in all forms, and you realize there is no escaping or transcending life, because you're still seeing yourself as separate. And all these beings who are doing that, and let's say some of the practices are self-deprivation, intense starving, all these things, it's like you can just temporarily experience a state. Okay, people who, just recently I watched this movie, you know, the woman who was, I don't know what it's called Adrift, I think, the woman who had to navigate herself through a storm. She survived the storm in the middle of the Atlantic or somewhere. And she thought that the one who was with her is alive, but he actually wasn't. And in the end, it was like, yeah, you were so deprived that you were hallucinating, right? After a few days, you already start to hallucinate. But I always say that's not hallucination. It's because your body is just lighter, because you're not, you know, like grounding it with food and all that you're doing. And you're a little like, ooh, a little drifty. It's like she wasn't just adrift on the sea, right? She was also adrift, you know, like in consciousness. So she, like, it's almost like she imagined her person is there, and yet he died. He wasn't there. But it wasn't a hallucination. It was definitely and obviously to me that he was her spirit guide. When he passed, he was guiding her through the whole journey, and it wasn't just a hallucination. So these are many levels of, you know, how we see things. And sorry. So where I was going with this before I share this, okay, this was a true story, by the way. It was interesting. Sorry, wasp here again. So many distractors today. They want us to not finish the subject for some reason. So I want to go back to the people, right, who start with this deprivation and intense starving to have this experience, right? You might have a glimpse of it, but you will never make it a permanent grounded experience, because you're not grounding your vital life force into the planet. And I've already shared this. It's a paradox. When you're moving energy in terms of becoming illumined, we're illuminating the bodies, we're illuminating the planet, we're illuminating the stratosphere, we're illuminating this field of reality that wants to be informed with love again. And when you go out into the escapism, you're trying to go out of your body each time. People are only using their third eyes to escape the body. Because, yeah, sometimes it's being challenging in the body. So people want to meditate for hours and hours, and there's never a solution. The solution does not exist. But the ultimate for me is like your life becomes a meditation. Instead of you trying to meditate, people are meditating a few moments or hours a day. Instead, make your whole life complete presence of love. And that's already the highest form of meditation. You know, these are techniques and ways and tools how you can gradually build your life force, your powerhouse to have those states, but you in no way need to deprive yourself. So when there are these practices that want to engage people in transcending the ego, transcending this identity or personality, instead of first seeing the role it played and why it's there for the evolution of soul, and this is true advancement of the soul, when you realize, wow, I played this role, I played that role, I played this identity, I participated in that, I participated in the experiment duality just like anyone else. Then you remember why, you remember love behind it all, and with that remembrance you don't need to shed anything or transcend anything, because ultimately people who are trying to transcend certain something without even knowing what it is, they're escaping into also the unknown, because that's also unknown territory. So what are we truly trying to escape? What are we truly trying to transcend? So you can't transcend life. That was the guidance. You only transcend ideas, ideologies that are false. So we have convictions and perceptions and certain beliefs that we come across our journey that we're always going to transcend the more we grow and evolve and expand because of it. It's like each time it's naturally being shed. You're naturally moving forward. You realize something about yourself. You meet a new mirror of the self. You're seeing yourself in a new version, a new mirror each time. And then you transcend that, but you don't transcend the self. The self at your core level is always ultimate. It's always permeating. It's always beating with the heart of one. And this is what the enlightened or illumined spiritual practices are all about. really get to the core of this illumined core within you, what it is. So the activation we did together was about the illumined core, and really discovering how you shapeshift your whole reality by feeling your own resonance, feeding yourself through your core, and becoming your core fully, ultimately, so you can feel the vibrancy of it in your vortex, inform all your environment with this vibrancy. So this basically what was the guidance that came through was also put in the session, and you can get that on my page. The link will be down below wherever I put it. Because it was really, really a beautiful process to walk through, and each time I do that, it's amazing what comes through. So the guidance in a nutshell was, don't try to escape life or transcend life. You can't transcend life. It's almost like you're trying to transcend yourself, and you can't, because you are life in its ultimate. So what it's like almost when you're trying to transcend it, you're trying to escape who? Yourself. All is a part of source. Source is beaming out rays of information to participate in a new cycle of creation, and then comes into completion, comes back into itself. And all of it is already part of it, already participated in everything. Nothing is a coincidence or a mere mishap or something you need to ultimately get or transcend. Either way, it's both extremes. You need to radically get something, right? Proof, science, or metaphysically trying to escape it, like go to the next level, go to the next level. The next level does not exist. The evolution that's, like, when I say more advanced, is simply an unfolding, a blossoming of love within you, but it doesn't come by force. It doesn't happen through ego. So you don't even need to dissolve the ego. Just get acquainted with it, with its role. How also it shares messages for you, because when a more advanced soul comes in the body, it still inherits the ego. It's an inherited part, like you inherit the body. But then when you gradually awaken and you start to do your soul alchemy, you will inform, and not just inform and transform, but eventually you will transmute and transfigure what is happening in your body. Sometimes I talk so fast I invent new words. I'm sorry about that. But this was a very important guidance. We came here to be life at its finest, life at its fullest, to be life that is so present and full of itself. Like, we did not come to escape or transcend life, because we know that's not possible. This is the unity consciousness, that volunteer soul, when you are a volunteer soul aspect of creation. It's not like you are special or chosen on a special mission. You are simply that aspect of source that sends itself for this reason, for this purpose. That's self-obvious. Hello. It informs this part that has maybe forgotten, but that it's also self-obvious deep down in the core. That's why there is such a thing as interconnectedness and interpenetrating each other, because it is possible. So for instance, if I have a session with someone and I'm receiving this guidance and they're like, ooh, wow, fascinated what comes through, it's not because I'm so special, I am so open, I can do this, right? And I'm someone's guru. It's because I've worked on myself so much that I'm able to access a more broader level. And when I'm with a person, not only I can receive this guidance, I can also deeply feel them. I can feel what's within them, sometimes to the degree they haven't yet expanded to feel. And this is why these kind of sessions and work can assist people who are just like on the threshold of really meeting new aspects of themselves. And I call them the beloved sessions. So I'm really excited. I hope to work and meet lots of more of these beautiful people. I just see, they're like sit in front of me like, oh, there's another one. Oops, there's another one. They are so different, it's just their energy field. It's like, even though they've received these imprints and they are a part of the world, they're also not of this world. I was always like this. I was in the world but not of it. I have my own thing. I do my own thing. So usually these people who see me, the way I talk, something just resonates with them, because it reminds them of themselves, of the way they are these free spirits, the way they want to radically do something. And the third thing I want to talk about is the difference between isolation, because that also came up, and the need for your ultimate self-honoring and discernment. So because you love life, you value life, because you yourself are the fullest, finest expression of life itself. Life is love, all is to be fully expressed. So those practices that teach, go away from pleasure, it's bad, it's a sin. It's like, why are you have a fear. You have a fear because you have a judgment that says at a certain point in life, pleasure, or me receiving pleasure or giving pleasure, brought me to experience a negative polarity of this playing out. Maybe that's an experience. Maybe that's in the past life. It doesn't matter. It's in a memory bank. Because yes, ultimately all is neutral. But when you use it, when you're learning about yourself, when you're evolving, you can either use it good or bad, positive, negative. That's the world of polarity playing out. Before, it's a unified polarity, a unity consciousness that sees both as one, and it stands in the middle. That's the core. That's the core illumined level I talk about. Not just talk about, but I permeate it all around. And that's the part of you that's the infinite. And that's why no one can tell you there is no such thing as the self. It's all just like the infinite ocean of consciousness. Sorry. If that was true, we didn't have all this diversity in creation, all the life. It was meant to individualize. But the problem is when we mistaken a false identity for the authentic individualization of our being, which is so necessary. Even with volunteer souls, they're all so unique. You can't say, well, they're volunteer souls, they're all the same. They're so diverse. But there's a core level within them through which I recognize them, like almost like this, like instantly. It's like the way they're carrying themselves through the world, the way they never fall for the BS systems, even when they're a part of them, and the way they see life through the beauty of organic process. And life is meant to be fully alive. So this experience, right, that we shared about the rainforest is, yeah, rainforest represents the highest vibrancy of life. It's the lungs of our planet. Guess why they're trying to destroy it so badly? Because they don't want us to feel that, right? That thriving pulse of life. It's like trying to destroy the planet's lungs. Hey, we know that, right? So the thing is, it's the highest vibrancy of life. And when you are at your highest authentic level, when you're right, your lungs right where your heart is as well, when you're breathing and you're always informing your heart of the love that you are at the illumined level, it permeates out. And whatever you do, whether you're just sitting on a bench like I am now, whether you're like waving to a tractor, it's like you're informing everything around you with the self-obvious, self-permeating state that does not need to be transcended or understood. Either extremes or polarity playing itself. It just needs to be felt with love. Love. Oh, so grateful for this experience. And that experience, whenever it's ready, will shift. Just recently, I watched this reading, and a person was saying that she saw like this vision of a mother who had like a few children, and some of them were good, some of them were more bad, right? Goodies, baddies. That's a funny word. Remember the Pleiadian book, Goodies, Baddies? I don't know if I've shared this, but this word really made me laugh. Some of you are goodies, some of you are baddies. You've all been each of each, right? At a certain point of time. So the mother just decided to have this full intention of love for all of them. She just saw them as thriving, full of life, happy, sustained, nourished, and eventually they all thrived. Because she, even though they were different expressions, right, of love, the glue was love, and she saw them like this. So this is the mother's love. This is the ultimate love, divine love, unconditional love that we're fueling into this reality. We don't need to change the system, fight the system, rebel the system. We don't need to transcend the system. Just simply be the love amidst all and watch it all play out and watch it all change naturally, because it will be infused with love. When aspects of life remember, when they're ready to remember, they're being called. Life is calling itself back simply at the different octave of being. That's all that it's about. And in my energy moving video from Elohim, a similar message came through, because they were literally saying that your intention, your desire, your love being held for this new type of earth consciousness is co-creating it. So it's a vibrancy thing, right? It's a frequency thing. It's not just like, oh, wishful thinking. It's much deeper than that. It goes much deeper. So don't try to deprive yourself of pleasures in life, but feel the pleasure coming through love. Not by becoming so entrenched in the physical realm that that's not even pleasure. It's a false concept of pleasure. It's again another ideology. So when we're trying to transcend something in terms of escapism, we're trying to basically not embrace the vital force of life that moves through everything. So a lot of times when people do that, they're not really putting their love and life force on the planetary scale. They're not participating with life. They don't want to engage with life. They want to escape life. And because of that, they're not engaging with it through love. They're not pulling their vital life force. And that's why the planet, in a way, is so depleted, because people don't want to exchange. Okay, they receive a lot from the planet and simultaneously they want to escape it. Hello? You know, there's not this, until you manage within yourself the vital life energy systems to not just nourish and sustain yourself, but always give the extra, always create the extra. That's the surplus. That's the third energy I always talk about. You got to do this mastery, otherwise you're not a lumen being. That's my main thing. I talk about illumination. If you don't like that, if you want wishful thinking, if you want ascension on the outside, go watch something else. But this is about the real thing. This is about how you become an illumined being, how you reinforce everything through your life force mastery and energy work, and how you become not just got self-consciousness realized within, but practiced, spreading, you know, sharing itself, love being shared. Okay, so because of all these actions that are not always in this divine reciprocity and equality, the planet somehow experiences this, you know, wobbly state. This is now happening. Everything is coming to the surface. The planet is at state, it is literally or ultimately at this state when it's realized, wow, all that's happening, right? Before a lot of it was veiled and was like on the back burner. Now everything is coming to the surface, is realized. Like, you know, when you're always trying to serve others and you're giving so much, you forget about yourself, but you forget, you put it on the back burner. It's always there somewhere behind the scenes. Eventually there's a current of energy that takes you to see yourself, to meet yourself in the mirror for reality as it is, not just wishful thinking. Oh, it's going to be all good. Yeah, wishful thinking, but things as they are. And once you have that realization that, oh, whoa, look at what I was doing. I was not flowing in the infinity symbol. I was like trying to navigate the journey only in one direction. And this way I was actually trying to control it. Whoa. And when you have that self-realization, this is happening now a lot, and Venus retrograde participates in this. I mean, we do through her movement, helps us in seeing the things like that. This means that it's going to be sometimes painful to see all those things. It's going to be like, whoa. So the advice from Spirit is see life already as an ultimate expression of love. Don't try to change it, control it, or transcend it in any way. Don't try to like compartmentalize it, you know, like science wants to prove life. The other form of like this kind of like spirituality, right? Religious or fanatic spirituality wants to escape life and transcend it into, I don't know, what you want to become. They don't even know. To honestly, if you ask these people what they really, let them describe you what they want to achieve, I'm probably they're gonna say, I want to just escape this world. I just don't want to be part of this duality, or I don't want to be. Yeah, you don't need to be part of duality, but you can still live a life. That's the point. It's living life, fullness, richness. You know, the components of the spheres of celestial origin that are not physical aspects. They always tell us we're so privileged because we get to experiment with life this way, because we get to partake in the experiment of life physically as well, because manifestation in the physical realm is much different than being a mental creation, let's say in the astral realms, where anything you think of, ooh, it can pop up. It's like, ooh, okay. At a certain point you're like bored. You're getting bored. So it is very vital for us. So just like those lungs that are so vital of the rainforest, let us become this rich providers of life. Let us become our own biodiversity at its finest, rainforests, whatever you want to be. For me, it's a waterfall, right? In the mountaintop, and then coming back to the valley, this union. Oh, you know, I can't wait to go to the mountains again. I had like a week of a period, kind of like a more static period. I was a little exhausted from all the energy coming in. But I think this will be my last video, perhaps. I don't know yet, but for the month, because I'm guided again to do more energy movement work, and it is intense. Because when I went to the Alps, right, in the Carnic Alps, I hiked so much, I walked so much. At a certain point, I got home. It all came after me. I was like, whoa, wow, how much of the body actually then needs to process all that you've harnessed there. And so then it wasn't just 8 days of being there, then it's another 7 days doing this integration work. So it is a part of informing life, infusing life, invigorating life, be invigorating force of presence in life. Meditate full of life, not like zoom, you're out there, gone. So that's why I somehow can't meditate in a way that I go somewhere else, or I'm absorbed into the life. For me, that's a big no-no, because I know my reason for being here, and it's to bring an aspect of life that's self-obvious in its expression of love to this life and the living systems that exist here now in this reality. And that's a huge purpose of all volunteer souls, and no matter what kind of way they do it, personally, uniquely, individually, whatever kind of creative expression they have. And don't forget, creativity is not just like doing art. Creativity is whenever you participate with love, you engage in the presence of love in whatever creation process is necessary to unfold through in each moment. That means you're not just creating your life on your reality, but reality at its ultimate highest level is being created through you by this higher illuminating presence that's always there. But it's already existing. It's all permeating. It's just a, let's say, a more evolved aspect of us that's co-present with us. It's in parallel. You don't need to transcend to get there. It's already there. It's just become such an open vessel that you're capable of bringing it into this experience in life. Get in the body, get in the beauty of this planet, get in motion. That's why the Ascension update for October was the energy movement, and that's why I'm making this video as an addition, because it so deeply aligns with the wisdom that was shared and the knowledge coming through. But don't forget, knowing about it, 1% of the equation. That 99%, which is all the rest, is up for us to do the work, to do the physical engagement and activities that we need, that are required for us in order to do this process. We're full of life. Make your meditation present with life. Be always in the space. And this is a space of active meditation, embodied meditation. So I'm calling it the embodied meditation for volunteer souls. I hope you enjoy this. I gotta go. This noise is really annoying me, so I gotta go somewhere where there's more peace. I love you all so very much, with always so much love, wisdom, and power. Do your work this month. You're gonna get all the results. You're gonna reap benefits. You're gonna see. There's a full moon coming at the end of the month. I think it's in Taurus. Reaping the rewards for those of you who are going to put in extra work. And don't forget to watch the Venus retro video with the messages for your illumined beloved union. It's so beautiful. I love you so much.